Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Scott York, Executive Director of the Committee for Dulles. Before I turn the meeting over to our president, I want to remind you that first, this event is being recorded. Once the recording is posted, I will send the link to all of you if you wish to view it again. Second, please keep your devices on mute at all times. As you can see, this is a regular Zoom session and not a webinar. Third, there will be Q&A after all three speakers are done. If you have any questions for them, please use the chat function to submit them. By way of announcements, on Monday, April 26th, the Committee for Dulles is holding a golf tournament at the Westfields Golf Club. There are foursomes and sponsorships available. For more information, visit our golf website. The link is posted in chat. I hope that you will be able to join us. And I want to thank our sponsors who have signed up so far: ECS, Pannoni, the Fairfax Christian Schools, Northwest Federal Credit Union, and Patriot Development Corporation. In conjunction with the golf tournament, the Committee for Dulles Community Outreach Committee is holding an online auction. All proceeds from the auction will go to the Community Outreach Scholarship Program for eligible high school seniors. The auction can be found on our golf website. Again, that link is posted in chat. There are many great items to bid on, and you can do that during this hour-and-a-half program. For other committee events and general information, please go to www.committeefordulles.org or contact me at scottyork@committeefordulles.org. Now I will turn the floor over to Jack Vega. Jack is in his third year as president of the Committee for Dulles. He is a principal at Rogers Consulting, located in Frederick, Maryland. Jack, the meeting is now yours.
Thank you, Scott, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Committee for Dulles Lunchtime United event. We appreciate your attendance and hope you will find the program interesting and enjoy it. As Scott mentioned, I'm Jack Vega. I'm the president for the Committee for Dulles. For those of you who may not be familiar with the committee was formed in 1966 and is the oldest member-sponsored organization promoting Washington Dulles International Airport. The committee continues to play an active role in fostering and promoting Dulles. Its mission to support the economic vitality of the airport and will continue to support federal, state, local government policies that protect and encourage growth of the airport and airport operations. After nearly 55 years, we continue to focus our energies towards maintaining Dulles Airport as the major economic engine for the region and the Commonwealth of Virginia. If you or your organization is not a member of the committee, I invite you to learn more about us and consider becoming a part of this dynamic organization. You may visit us at www.committeefordulles.org or email our executive director at scottyork@committeefordulles.org. We have another great program for you today, and a big thank you to our program sponsors for helping making this possible. Our partner sponsor is Loudoun County Economic Development, and our advocate sponsor is the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. We appreciate their continued support of the committee. I also want to recognize the following elected officials, dignitaries that are in the Zoom audience. I believe our chairman for the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, Mr. Jeff McKay, is on, as well as our representative for the Sully District from the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, Kathy Smith. Likewise, we should have our president and CEO of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, Mr. Jack Potter, and a board member of MWA, Mr. Robert Lazaro. We know that you're all very busy, so thank you for being with us today. United Airlines has been a member of the Committee for Dulles for many years, and we're appreciative of their support. Evan Koppel, one of our speakers, serves in the committee's board of directors. Evan, thank you for working with Scott to help arrange today's program. And another big thank you to Lauren Riley and Eddie Gordon for agreeing to speak with us this afternoon. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentations. The topics that we asked them to discuss today are United's sustainability plan, which is a nice follow-up to the committee's February Sustainability Infrastructure webinar that presented MWA's 2020 Sustainability Plan from September of 2020, presented by Roger Natsuhara. The second topic is the importance of Dulles Airport as a United hub. And last but not least, safety measures being taken on aircraft to protect passengers during the COVID pandemic. Now, for the purposes of introducing our speakers, I'd like to call on our partner sponsor, Loudoun County Economic Development, represented by its Executive Director, Buddy Reiser. Buddy serves as the Executive Director for Loudoun County's Department of Economic Development. He leads the agency responsible for encouraging growth and developing relationships with Loudoun's business community in both the commercial and agricultural-based business sectors. During his tenure at Loudoun County DED, Buddy and his team have attracted more than $25 billion in new investment and tens of thousands of new jobs. In 2007, Mr. Reiser joined Loudoun County and helped build its world-renowned data center alley into the largest concentration of data centers in the world. In 2017, Buddy was named one of the top 50 economic developers in North America. He was named a Tech Titan by Washingtonian Magazine in 2017, 2018, 2019, and has been named one of the 50 most influential Virginians for 2018, 2019, 2020 by Virginia Business Magazine, and was named Washington Business Journal's Power 100 as one of the most influential business people in Washington, D.C. in 2019. In 2020, he was again named to the Virginia 500, a list of Commonwealth's most powerful and influential leaders. Reiser is a certified economic developer, a graduate of Virginia Tech's local government management graduate certificate program, Go Hokies, and Buddy, the floor is yours.
I asked Scott to cut out most of that, so I think he did that just to embarrass me. So thank you, Jack. Thank you, Scott, for this opportunity. I was on the board for Committe for Dulles from 2007 to 2011, so it's good to know that you still allow me to pop in every once in a while. Brandon Ferris now represents our team on the Committe for Dulles board. Let me start with some good news. Last night, our Board of Supervisors wrapped up their budget discussions with a proposed tax rate of 98 cents, which is a reduction of 5.5 cents. For context, the tax rate in FY11, just 12 fiscal years ago, was $1.30. So how does a community lower taxes 32 cents over a decade while building billions of dollars of roads, schools, county facilities, and while expanding community services at a really high clip? Well, in addition to outstanding fiscal management, it does so by more than doubling the amount of taxes that come from the commercial sector. When I started, less than 19% of the overall tax base was commercial. Now we're closer to 50% than we are 20. To be able to continue to grow our commercial tax base by billions, especially during COVID, has been amazing. But for as much growth as we have seen on the tech side, it's the touch side of our economy that really needs our focus now during COVID. Businesses that are in need of personal interaction to succeed still really need our help. That includes certain types of retail, restaurants, and hospitality. We do hope to be announcing a program soon to help our hotels, because until business travel comes back, it's going to be really tough for those businesses. I'm really excited to hear from our guests from United today. Like most of you, I've gone from near constant travel to sitting either here at home, my office, or at the government center for pretty much the entire year that we've been in this. I can't wait to get back in the air, get back on the road. I still believe that business is best done in person and that the prospects are great for a strong recovery for our airport. So let me introduce our speakers. Lauren Riley is Managing Director, Global Environmental Affairs and Sustainability at United Airlines. She's responsible for leading United's environmental sustainability strategy, including decarbonization, sustainable aviation fuel, environmental compliance, waste, water, and energy programs. This portfolio supports United's goal of achieving 100% green by zeroing out carbon emissions by 2050. Lauren has earned her MBA from the University of Maryland and a Bachelor of Arts degree in environmental science from Bucknell University. She is a certified change management advanced practitioner through Georgetown University. Eddie Gordon was selected as managing director of United's hub operations at Washington Dulles in October of 2020. Eddie has led this team in navigating the challenges presented by the global pandemic and the events that occurred around our nation's capital on July 6th. He's the airline's tumultuous winter operations leader. He started his journey with United Airlines, formerly Continental Airlines in Houston, as a corporate finance attorney in its legal department in 2009. Eddie earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from Duke University and his Juris Doctor from New York University School of Law. Eddie is a legal counsel, on Legal Diversity Fellow, and has been legal counsel doing a lot of pro bono work for members of the community. And Evan Campo is the Director of Sales for the Atlantic region for United Airlines, based at the Carius Hub here in DC. In this role since April 2014, Evan is responsible for directing a team that manages relationships with corporations, travel management companies, government agencies, civic organizations, and sponsorship partners. Evan currently sits on the boards of directors of Destination DC Convention and Visitors Bureau and Committee for Dulles. In addition, he serves on the Transportation Committee for the Greater Washington Board of Trade. Even more impressive to me is that he once served on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Board. Evan has distinguished a Global Leadership Program designation through the Wharton School of Business and the Global Business Travel Association. Thank you all three for being here, and I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. And I would like to start by just saying thank you for inviting us this afternoon. This is a really great discussion to have with such a unique group of regional leaders. As a Fairfax County resident that used to regularly frequent Dulles, I do miss getting in the air. We miss having everybody in the air. We look forward to the day when travel is back to normal and perhaps a little bit more sustainable, which is what I'd like to talk to you about today. So United is really excited about the opportunities that we see all around us in aviation with a path forward to really fly sustainably. And just last year in December, United pledged to go 100% green. And what that means for us is that we declared that we're going to zero out the emissions from flying by the year 2050. And we're going to do it without using carbon offsets, which is a very unique approach to how we look at flying sustainably. And I believe we're the only airline in the world that has declared that we will not be using carbon offsets. So next slide, please. Are we able to advance, Evan? Okay, I'll keep going while Evan is working the slides. So why is that important? Well, when you look at United's greenhouse gas emissions and you look at our inventory and what does it mean to be emitting emissions into the atmosphere, 98% of the emissions from our operations are from the fuel that we use on our jets. So every time you get on that aircraft, you take off, you land, you have your flight, we're actually burning emissions that really contribute directly to climate change. So for us, when we talk about what does it mean to go 100% green, it's really important that we look at and start to tackle the fuel on our aircraft and finding ways that we can reduce the emissions from that. The important discussion point around not using carbon offsets, which is a differentiator for United, is because we have this discussion about what does it mean to go 100% green? What does it mean to actually zero out the emissions from flying so that we make flying more sustainable and that becomes the norm? Well, we quickly realized, and we being the CEO of United, Scott Kirby, among others across United, that if we're really going to be intentional about accepting, adopting, and accelerating a goal around net zero, we have to do it without enabling the status quo. And to us, carbon offsets are a mechanism that, you fund a project outside of your operations and you're able to draw down your carbon emissions through that funding of a project outside of your operations, but you don't necessarily change your behavior within your operations. And that was not enough for us. So we declared to go 100% green. There are 3 pathways that we are taking to really realize this goal. The first one is about replacing the jet fuel on our aircraft with a sustainable alternative. So there is an alternative available today. It's called sustainable aviation fuel. And you can actually drop it into the aircraft that we fly today. It works with the fueling infrastructure that we have at Dulles and other airports across the world. And it releases up to 80% less carbon on a life cycle basis. So really promising path forward to reducing the emissions that come out the tailpipe from our jets. The second pathway is really about removing emissions. So there are CO2 particles in the air from flying this year and years past. We do have an obligation to address those. So we have announced a partnership in which we invested in a carbon capture technology. So literally sucking the CO2 out of the atmosphere and sticking it underground. And that's an opportunity for United and other airlines moving forward to reduce our emissions from flying, because we know we're going to be relying on fossil fuels for some time now. And then the third is really around innovating. So looking at the next generation of decarbonization solutions, whether that's hydrogen powered aircraft, if it's electric aircraft, those alternatives that allow us to really draw down the emissions from flying. Next slide, please. United is, we've been on this journey for a very long time, and it's really exciting to see how far we've come, but we still have so much more to do. You know, we had the first test flight for sustainable aviation fuel in 2009. In 2015, United invested $30 million in a producer of sustainable aviation fuel that it's called Fulcrum Bioenergy. It's very interesting. They actually convert municipal solid waste, so trash from a trash can, into alternative fuel that can be used on our jets. So really promising way to both address municipal waste within your community, as well as an alternative fuel to use in our flights. Since 2016, we've been using sustainable aviation fuel every single day out of our operations in Los Angeles. And we've purchased today more sustainable aviation fuel than any other airline globally. So we're really proud of our track record to date, but all of this is to show that we've got a lot more work to do across aviation and in collaboration with our airport authorities and the communities in which we fly. United in our entirety, over the course of the last decade, since we've been using sustainable aviation fuel, it accounts for far less than 1% of the total fuel that we consume in an annual basis. So that is simply not good enough, and we have a lot more work to do around scaling this solution and making it a lot more economical. United was also recognized just this last year by Carbon Disclosure Project as an A-list recipient for climate. So Carbon Disclosure recognizes the top 2% of applicants across the world for their leadership on climate. And we were the only airline recognized globally last year for really leaning into the climate discussion with meaningful action behind our goals, behind our intention, so that we can actually push commercial aviation a step forward to sustainable flying. So we're really proud of the track record that we have in place. But again, we look forward to more collaboration and more sustainable opportunities so that we can actually get into our aircraft up in the air and do it slightly more sustainably. Next slide, please. United is also the only airline that has invested in carbon capture. The specific technology that we invested in is called direct air capture. And as you can see from the image here, it's a large industrial sized plant that literally captures the CO2 from the air around all of us. And so what happens, which is really kind of an interesting technology, is air filters through these large industrial fans, and the CO2 essentially gets absorbed into sponges. The sponges then are cooked, the CO2 is gasified, and it's stuck underground. So CO2 is permanently stuck underground, enabling us to remove the emissions from years past. We announced an investment in a company called 1.5 just in December. This group is creating the first direct air capture plant in the United States. It's going to be based in West Texas. It will have the capacity to reduce carbon emissions about 1 million metric tons per year. And just as a relative basis of comparison, that's very similar to the amount of CO2 that would be reduced by 40 million trees. So really significant impact by a single plant. And our expectation is that there likely will be many more of these plants to come, because we have a significant pathway forward if we're going to reach any of the temperature targets under the Paris Agreement, which the United States just rejoined recently. Next slide, please. We also recognize that we need to continue to innovate. There is no silver bullet when it comes to sustainable flying on the size of jets that we fly. So we need to continue to look at emerging technologies, emerging solutions that will allow us to reduce our carbon emissions. In February, we announced a partnership with a group called Archer Aviation, which is a really interesting technology, because they're actually looking at urban mobility solutions. So can we put passengers on these short haul flights, these electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, and actually transport them perhaps from downtown to the airport in which they're looking to fly out of. And it actually is equally economic, as well as reduces carbon emissions by 50%. So this is enabled because this technology is powered by batteries, lithium-ion batteries, which is commercially available today. So continuing to look at the solutions that enable us to provide a better service to our customers and reduce our carbon footprint while working in partnership with our communities is really important to us. And we hope to find more of these solutions as we continue to innovate and move forward. Next slide, please. So we also need to talk about our ground operations, because that's a significant part of our contribution to climate change as well. And it's been really great to see the interest and engagement around converting ground support equipment to electric. And I appreciate the partnership at Dulles with MWA and FAA. We've been pursuing grants that enable us to take some of our fleet and actually stand down diesel and stand up electric. We're working right now on a grant that enables us to bring in up to 200 new electric vehicles to Dulles, which will get us closer to 50% of our GSE will be electric once these are converted. So that's a big step forward, and we look forward to more opportunities to continue to bring the infrastructure required for charging stations, and then as well the vehicles that we can then convert to electric. We're also looking at the spaces in which we occupy, so the facilities that we use. Is there an opportunity for us to lean into sustainable design, whether that's LEED certification, renewable energy use, or other? Those are all very important to how we look holistically about across our operations to reduce our emissions. And then finally, looking at our waste streams. Is there a way to produce less waste? And whether that's increasing our recycling or replacing our products with more sustainable alternatives, perhaps something that's locally sourced, perhaps something that can be is compostable, that we can find ways to really create less waste. And so those are some of the priorities that we're looking at in our ground operations. Next slide, please. So where do we go from here? We are sincerely committed to a future in which sustainable flying is the norm. That is our North Star. That is what we are focused on. We will continue to invest in and procure lower carbon alternatives, whether that's fuel or these new electric aircraft or the next generation. Furthering advocacy is actually quite important right now, and this is a great opportunity for those of us involved in any of the policy discussions, whether it's local, state, or federal, around decarbonization and climate at large. It's very clear that climate's a priority to this administration. So is there an opportunity for us to make sure that those solutions that we believe can scale and be permanent solutions to address climate change in aviation, they're on the table for evaluation as we proceed forward with some of the climate policy. And then finally, partnership. We can't do this alone. We don't want to do this alone. Our partnership with each of the airport authorities, with all of our local organizations and businesses is really critical for us to continue to evaluate what are those opportunities for us to continue to address climate change, reduce our carbon emissions, and bring sustainable flying to the norm. So I thank you for your time today, and I look forward to discussion later.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon to everyone. And a special shout out to the members of my team who have joined, without whom, of course, this job would not be possible, and it certainly would not be as fun. So let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to do two of the things that I've come to enjoy most since the commencement of the pandemic, lunch, albeit virtually, and of course, address our mutually favorite topic, Dulles. It is not only an honor, but frankly, a surprise that anyone would ask me, a recovering corporate finance attorney, to speak for more than 15 seconds, less more 15 minutes. But here I am, and for that, I thank you again. So as mentioned, I am Eddie Gordon, and for the last 5+ months have been the new managing director of United's operation at the fabulous Washington Dulles Airport. I am both delighted and excited to be among so many who support our airport and by extension, United. It is therefore, my view, very fair to conclude that you and we are 100% aligned in our desires to ensure that Dulles is and remains the airport of choice in the Washington, D.C. area, and that United is the leading airline, not only here in this beautiful region, but in the world. As I was considering what to share today, it occurred to me that while the last year has had its unprecedented challenges for all, we at United in this moment are in the very unique position of deciding, developing, and becoming who we want to and will be on the other side of this pandemic that has impacted and changed the lives, habits, and routines of so many. The world has changed, and frankly, so have we. We here at United have a very unique opportunity to redefine that which is important to us as an enterprise and an airline. And we are seizing this opportunity. We cannot, and our current executive team will not allow us to operate exactly as we did in 2019 because the world does not operate as it did in 2019. So it is not only my hope, but my goal that Dulles, the gold mine that it is, will be a direct beneficiary of United's current and future operational and cultural transformations. I reiterate, I could not be more excited to share with you some of the things that we have done already, some of the things we are currently doing or are planning to do in the near term, and some that we will work hard here at IAD and system-wide, frankly, to accomplish in the future. So for me, as a hub leader, the excitement lies in not knowing the ultimate destination, but being supremely confident in the direction in which we are headed, purposefully and continually following the North Star to greatness. So without further delay, let's prepare for takeoff. A little airline humor, never heard. So I've worked for or in the aviation industry for the last 2 decades and at an airline for the last dozen years, and have witnessed a lot. The devastation and effects of 9/11, the economic crisis of 2008 and 2009, a merger between two of the industry's behemoths, and never, not even in my wildest dreams, could I have imagined the challenges and impact that COVID-19 could have on either the global community and economy generally or the aviation industry specifically. So for me, it is a testament to extraordinary management at this company that we were able to pivot so quickly while others hesitated and contemplated. We remained loyal to the first of our core 4 principles, which is safety, and made the changes necessary to protect immediately our people and our passengers. We have been, and for as long as I am an operational leader here or anywhere else, will continue to be committed to who we are at our very core. You know, even in the face of the potential risk that the few passengers who are willing to fly would choose to fly with our competitors instead of us. And while so many chose not to fly at all, still some did, and we made sure that they did so in the safest way possible. It is crystal clear to me that we made the right choice, as all others soon followed, which confirmed the true power of audacity and the benefits of blazing your own trail. And now, as the vaccine is being rolled out across the US and the world, we are seeing indications that people want to travel, and they want to travel with us. Why? Well, it's simple. From the outset, we've taken affirmative steps to maintain and, where necessary, rebuild confidence in flying. From our robust Clorox Clean Plus safety measures to offering to the Department of Defense our aircraft here at Dulles to study the risk of COVID exposure when flying, which study, by the way, confirmed that such exposure is virtually non-existent when coupled with proper wearing of an appropriate face and nose covering. And behind the scenes, we have taken many other steps to put our customers at ease, because first and foremost, it's the right thing to do. But also, because as customers become increasingly travel ready, we wanted them to choose United. So innovation, as Lauren mentioned, continues to be an essential component of our efforts. We recognize that the travel landscape has changed significantly. It is far more involved and complicated for our customers than it ever has been. It's just no longer as simple as checking in on your phone or at a kiosk, heading through security and waiting at the gate for your departure. There's much more to traveling point A to point B. First slide, please. So now, as you are all probably aware, some countries require a negative PCR test, others are fine with a negative rapid test. And many of those countries, regardless of the type of test, require that the test be administered within 48 to 72 hours of departure. We here at the airport appreciate firsthand these complexities through which our customers are having to navigate in the current environment, because we are required to enforce them for passengers board our metal for each destination. And naturally and unfortunately, unbeknownst to many of them, not all of our customers arriving at the airport meet the criteria to travel. So we've partnered with ExpressCheck, which has created pop-up clinics at United hubs in certain other airports that provide COVID testing to our employees and customers right in the airport. On March 15th, an ExpressCheck location opened right here at Dulles, and we thank MWA, Marketplace Development, and ExpressCheck for making that possible for customers and employees, not only here at Dulles, but also at Reagan. In my humble opinion, this is a game changer for the company and for our employees. For us to be able to offer an effective and relatively simple solution to a very common problem makes all the difference. It's located pre-security, so it's great for customers who need to get a test before traveling internationally. Even domestically, ExpressCheck is a trusted travel partner for Hawaii. It meets that state's safety requirements. I'll explain in a few seconds why that's important to know for folks traveling out of our home. Just bear with me. This testing option offers peace of mind to customers and employees who want a test as simple reassurance that they haven't contracted the virus, and it gives additional access to customers traveling to locations to which we fly where a COVID test is required to enter. Next slide, please. So hopefully by now you're asking yourselves, to where is United flying? Where can I go directly from Dulles for my first post-pandemic vacation? Unfortunately, I have answers to those questions. As I intimated earlier, and am proud to announce, on May 6th, we'll resume service to Honolulu, Hawaii. We'll start with 3 times a week and with an anticipated increase to daily service later in the spring or summer. And for that journey, passengers will be able to get a COVID test right here in the airport in order to travel there. This month, we resume flying to Zurich, which will be operating 3 times a week. Also, this month, we started new daily service on our express product to Panama City, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we have twice daily service to Pensacola, Florida. Finally, in March, we increased service to a bunch of other popular cities, including Boston, Newark, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, San Juan, Turks and Caicos. So I'm also delighted to mention that in May, we expect to bring back our 10:30 bank on Tuesdays and Wednesdays indefinitely. You may recall that when we reduced service because of the pandemic, our 10:30 a.m. flights were some of the first flights impacted. So it will be great to see those return on what we hope will be a permanent basis. And additionally, in case you're interested, routes to Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach, and a host of other locations will also be returning. As we look to our international footprint beyond Zurich this summer, Toronto will be returning, and so will Paris. And if you enjoy European travel as much as I do, come on, Paris is always a great option. And we will be starting new service to Accra, Ghana on May 14th, operating 3 times a week. So from my perspective, this is absolutely incredible. We're getting back to doing what we do best, flying. And it's great for the region. It's great for our employees and passengers, for our operation here at IAD, and for our company. And we believe strongly will position us for a strong recovery. Next slide. So let's be clear. Our transformation isn't limited to our flight schedule. It is and will be in everything we do. We're going back to the basics and making our customers and their unique travel needs and experiences our primary focus. In order for us to truly win, however, we know we need to have a common understanding of how we want customers to feel when they choose to fly United, and appreciate the importance of supporting and encouraging positive interactions with one another and our customers, and building the strength of those relationships. We want to inspire the world to move thoughtfully, and that means making meaningful connections, anticipating the needs of our customers, showing gratitude in each and every one of our customer interactions, and having a playbook from which all of our employees can work. Next slide, please. And we believe that these and the many other actions happening behind the scenes will drive our customers to continue to choose United for their travel journeys. So what are some of the things we're doing behind the scenes? We're doing our best to ensure a smooth travel experience for our customers by prioritizing connections where possible and taking action proactively in an effort to avoid issues for our customers along their journey. So we've developed a priority flight concept, which is a bit of a misnomer given that all of our flights are a priority to us. But the spirit of this concept is to prioritize certain flights which, if delayed, would likely cause downline misconnects, ultimately potentially snowballing out of control. So currently, a priority flight is defined as any hub-to-hub flight where there are a minimum of 70 daily connecting customers. The thought being that if we start the day right, then we won't be in a constant state of trying to catch up, thereby stopping the domino effect before it even starts. If customers make their connections on time, they'll reach their desired destinations in a timely fashion, and as a direct result, will enjoy a great travel experience. The same, of course, holds true for crew members who are traveling to a flight. If they make their connections, then customers who are on those flights that they're working similarly won't be delayed, and consequently will also have a great travel experience. So to be clear, if a flight isn't designated a so-called priority flight, that does not mean, of course, that it falls to the wayside. No, those passengers are still in good hands in choosing United for their travels, and getting them to their ultimate destinations, whether it is for work or play, is without question our priority. So if you will, I'd like to touch on another similar United effort of which we are extremely proud. Previously, you may have heard us speak about Connection Saver. Well, we're still doing it. It's still a thing. And for those who are not familiar, let me explain briefly. Connection Saver is an algorithm that we use to look for customers who have tight connections. Then we work on their behalf to help them make their flights where it makes sense to do so. And in those circumstances, we alert them by sending them a text message that we're holding their flights. We may even move an aircraft closer to their arriving gate so they're not sprinting down the concourse like Usain Bolt or somebody. Of course, this doesn't mean we can wait for all connecting customers indefinitely, but we are committed to doing our best where and when we can. So next slide, please. And my final thing, remember I mentioned earlier that we appreciate that traveling can be much more complicated now than it was pre-pandemic. Well, we decided to make it easier for our customers. We created the Travel Ready Center, which is a digital solution where customers can review COVID-19 entry requirements, find local testing options, and upload testing and vaccination records for their travels. It's all in a single location. United is the first airline to integrate all these features into its mobile app and website, and we're very proud of it. And in coming weeks and months, we expect to add more innovative features to the platform. We're taking the guesswork out of traveling for our customers, which is pretty exciting for us, and our hope our customers too. And the final slide. So this is very simple. Our goal at United is connecting people, uniting the world. It's just in our DNA. Customers are at the center of that. They are, you are our core business. United Dulles is here to deliver great service while connecting you to the moments that matter most, whether that's domestically or internationally, business or leisure. And even though the pandemic has changed many things, one thing that remains the very same is our steadfast commitment to connecting to our community in significant ways and through meaningful partnerships. Not exactly sure how that will look right now, but I hope to have more to share in that regard soon if I'm invited back to speak. Finally, I'd like to close by reminding you that I will work relentlessly to keep Dulles your hometown airline. I know that we have to earn that honor every single day. And guess what? This is the challenge that my team and I welcome and embrace. So humbly I submit to you, we remain united, united for our customers, united for the communities we serve, and united for the Committee for Dulles. So thank you for this chance to chat. Over to you, Evan.
Great. Thank you so much, Eddie and Lauren. You can see I'm super proud of my colleagues. We really have done so much on the sustainability front for many years, and of course, continue to lead the industry. And Eddie, being new to Washington, welcome. He's now my neighbor here in Ashburn, and we are so proud to have you, and beautifully said, and really looking forward to working with you more. As we say in sales, we're the promise makers, but Eddie and the whole operations team are the promise keepers. So we work so closely with those guys. And we really rely on each other in so many aspects. We get the passengers there, but it's really their teams that are up to making the experience as best as it can be. So we're really proud of that. And then I just want to talk to you a little bit more about the safety and efficiency that we're doing. And one thing that we've done in sales over the last 8 or 9 months is we've actually done Clean Plus tours very successfully. We've probably done dozens of them all around the country. Here in Washington, we've actually done 5 at Dulles. We have another one coming up the 3rd week of April, where we're bringing our corporate customers and travel agency partners and community partners over to Dulles to see, if they haven't flown in a while, what's it like to fly now? What are the new protocols and procedures? And actually, we moved a lot of the tour now to our United hangar, where you actually can sit in the plane and get all the speakers to come in and talk through the whole situation. This has really helped a lot of our corporate travel managers and procurement folks at some of the big corporations that work in this region. A little bit more comfort and how to explain to their travelers what to expect and to really prepare them. The same thing with our travel agency partners. They really need this information to get the whole traveling public back in the skies and make them feel comfortable. So let's go to the next slide, Scott. So Eddie touched upon it a bit, but we really have done a lot as a company and as an industry regarding COVID-19. We've had a layered approach to safety. Obviously, we've had HEPA filters for many, many years. We just never promoted it all that much. And now, of course, we're telling everybody that will listen about our hospital-grade filtration systems in our planes. And this is one thing that we do show on those Clean Plus tours at the airport. We actually show them what the filter looks like, how it works, and really explain that it's like being as sometimes even safer than being in a hospital. The airflow in a plane is just so unique, and we get fresh air and recycled air every 2 to 3 minutes through the filtration systems. And it really helps people understand the beauty of the layered approach that we're doing. We were one of the first airlines to require mask wearing for any employee going on or off the plane. And that includes the catering folks and anybody walking on that plane, our gate agents, but also, of course, our flight attendants and pilots. And then we were also the first to require our passengers to also wear masks. And our protocols have been outstanding. We have worked with Clorox and the Cleveland Clinic to really evaluate and put in place a lot of protocols and procedures that was not our core competency. So we went to the experts and partnered with them and said, tell us what we need to do to meet CDC guidelines and ensure the safety of our employees and our passengers. And then there was a couple studies put out there, the Harvard study and the DoD study, that really showed it's virtually non-existent to get COVID on a plane. And with all the layered approaches that we're doing. Scott, I'm not sure what happened, but the deck is gone. What we say in sales when these things happen is, this is why we need to get back in person, because it's so interesting, all the unique things that happen on these calls. But you know what I can do? I can keep talking. I'll pull it up on my screen here. So one thing I was talking about was our cleaning procedures. So with the layered approach, we have the filtration systems, but we also have incredible cleaning systems that we do after every single flight. We are one of the few airlines that actually deep cleans our planes and electrostatic our planes, not just the seats, but the tray tables and the air vents and the baggage holds. Amazing amount of detail going into it. And after all that's wiped down, the electrostatic spraying will go throughout the whole cabin. So that is another layer on top of the filtration systems. We also are one of the only airlines that I'll talk about in a few minutes that run the auxiliary power and filtration systems throughout. Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost the presentation, but I'll just keep moving on. I also want to talk to you about, we have something called the Destination Travel Guide. So because there's so much confusion within the traveling public, and every country, every state has different rules and regulations and procedures, what we've done on United.com is you can go on and click on an interactive map. And we have a US map and an international map that will show you what are the vaccine guidelines, what are the testing guidelines, what are the guidelines to stay in a hotel for a certain amount of days until they feel you're ready to go out into the public. So we have tried to make it as simple as possible. And then Eddie had mentioned the Travel Ready Center, which is on our United app. So as soon as you have a flight booked and it pops up on your United app, that app, as Eddie mentioned, will give you all the details you need to know to ensure that you have all the information. You can, as he said, you can load your tests, you can load vaccines on there. You can find out actually before you leave your origin or destination where you can get a test if you need one. So we really try to take the guesswork out of traveling again and do all that work behind the scenes for you. One of the other things that I wanted to mention is how we've led the industry throughout this whole pandemic. Really important. As I mentioned, we were the first to require crew and passengers to wear masks. And I started mentioning to you that we are one of the only airlines that actually, as a plane comes in and is parked at the gate, keep that auxiliary power and the air ventilation system flowing the entire boarding and deplaning process. That just gives another layer of safety in terms of cleaning out the air filtration. And then we were the first airline, actually, and our cargo folks have just been outstanding through this whole pandemic to safely transport and deliver COVID vaccines. We, as soon as this all came out in March and April last year, our cargo folks started doing a lot of research on what we needed to do to transport. Here we go, Scott. Thank you. Just go down 3 slides, Scott. Oh. Right there. Yes, thank you. So, that was amazing what the cargo folks have done. And frankly, cargo, I just got to give a shout out to them. They have really kept our airline running into markets that we probably couldn't have flown to because we just didn't have enough passengers to fly there. But because we had enough cargo to make that flight somewhat profitable, we were able to put passengers on there. And of course, they did all the behind the scenes work to make sure we had all the right equipment and the procedures in place when the COVID vaccine needed to get delivered. And then we mentioned about integrating into one app the COVID entry requirements, local testing options, and uploading the testing and vaccine records. That's all part of the Travel Ready Center. And finally, we were the first airline to voluntarily collect contact tracing data for the CDC. Next slide, please. So on the sales side, this was huge because a lot of our corporate customers for many years had talked about a lot of the change fees, and of course our leisure passengers felt the same way. So we decided, we were the first major US carrier. I mean, we know that's one of our competitors actually have done this throughout, but we changed to no change fees for most economy and premium cabin tickets in the US, Mexico, and Caribbean. And then we also added no change for international travel originating in the US. We also provide the flexibility of customers to stand by for an earlier flight on the same day for free. And we allow our Mileage Plus Premier members to confirm a seat on an earlier flight for no cost at all. These were all things that we had charged for before, and that we are not doing today. Next slide. And then Mileage Plus. For all of you that are Mileage Plus members, you probably know quite a bit of these rule changes, but like a lot of suppliers in our travel industry, you know, air, hotel, car rental, they all did very similar things where we really knew that people were not flying in 2020. So what were we going to do to maintain those loyal customers? And so what we did were several things. We reduced the Premier qualification requirements completely for the 2021 year. So the first thing we did was really extend the status. So we based everything on 2019 status, and we extended that all the way through January 31st of 2022. So really what you did in 2020 really had no relevance. And we made it easier to extend the plus points upgrades, and then we doubled up on the Premier qualification points that people had to earn so that they could earn faster. And that would be for trips completed beginning of the year. We're trying to jumpstart travel, and so some enticements there. And then for those who had ordered electronic travel certificates through their Mileage Plus credits, we made them valid for 2 years. Knowing that people didn't have the opportunity to travel, we wanted to be flexible and give them that chance. Next slide. So next slide, please. So Eddie did a wonderful job of talking about a lot of the new markets. So I will probably go through a couple of the slides quickly, but I wanted to give you some background because it is my role to work in the corporate community and deal with all the major corporations along with our global sales team. You know, Dulles and the Washington area has just diversified so beautifully in the last 10 to 15 years. We were really on a nice upward trajectory over on numbers of flights and passengers here at Washington Dulles. Going back a little bit in history, we saw a dip based on DCA perimeter rules, opening up sequestration in the Washington area and the government. But then we saw a nice recovery in 2015, 2016, and it really started going forward. A lot of tech companies were moving in our area. There was some corporate relocations in the area. Just a lot of strength in terms of the corporate and leisure market, a lot of growth out in the Dulles area. And then, of course, the building of the Metro Silver Line. And of course, we can't wait in the anticipation of the opening of the Silver Line. And the population just continues to grow out there. So we're very bullish on Dulles and looking forward to what the future brings. Next slide, Scott. So during the pandemic, and this is a measurement from June of 2020 through April of 2021, we really maintained a significant level of service. These are the number of seats that we had by month in the Washington market. And this includes our DCA and Dulles seat share. So you can see that we really hovered anywhere between, you know, in the height of the pandemic in June, a little under 200,000 seats that month, all the way up to about 460,000 in December. We really peaked in December during the holidays. And we see that trajectory really going up as the summer kicks in. Next slide. So here's our recovery timeline. And this will put a little bit more into context of what Eddie was referring to with bringing back some markets. So in January of last year, which, you know, January is typically a lower month for all the airlines really, but we peaked out probably in the summer of 2019 around 270, 280 flights here at Dulles. But in January, a typical January would be, you know, about in the 220, 230 range. As you can see, you know, April 2020 was a rough month. I mean, that was really the height of everything shutting down. And then little by little, we have been creeping up every few months. And so we're really excited that this summer will be just under 200 flights. And it is still, down probably 60, 70% or 30% from where we were, but we're excited about the growth, and we will continue to monitor demand and bring in flights as needed. And then destinations served. So in January 2020, we were serving 105 destinations. And then we see 108 in the summer, which is actually the same as the summer of 2019. And I think if you're not an airport code person, you may not be able to read this, but I think Eddie really kind of talked through it, and we'll be happy to share more specifics if you want to ask us about those codes. Next slide. So what's interesting that's happened is connecting customers are really comprising a lot more of the majority of Dulles passengers. And one of the reasons, and we've noticed this, is that cities like New York, Washington, Chicago, San Francisco really had this whole lockdown has been really harder on a lot of those cities, in Boston as well. So we're seeing actually 10% more connecting traffic through Dulles than we did pre-COVID. So that is an interesting thing to watch, but we know as the market returns and as people feel more comfortable traveling and more vaccinations are administered, we hope to see that number go back to where it was with more originating traffic. Next slide. So Dulles really has catered service to COVID demand trends. What we've done is we've increased our network connectivity along the East Coast. Dulles really has become our north-south connector at United Airlines, and really connecting a lot of those Northeast markets to a lot of the Southeast markets. And it's really become the preferred airport, even before COVID, but even because of just less air traffic than the New York region, and it was a lot more reliable. So we're excited that that has continued throughout the last year. We revamped the bank structure, which Eddie mentioned to you, and we're resuming key routes. And again, we will continue to monitor that. In fact, we talk to our corporate customers. We probably have about 20 to 30 calls a week, and we really monitor and ask questions of all those customers in the region to say, where do you see travel returning? Are you going back to your office, which we feel will spark a lot of the travel suppliers and buyers going in and out of the offices? But also, where is your corporate travel policies, and where are you going with travel? A lot of companies right now are essential travel only, but they're starting to move beyond that. We see some transportation companies, pharmaceutical companies, really, and entertainment. Really coming back a little bit stronger than some of the typical high tech and other industries in our region. Next slide. And as Eddie mentioned, this is more of a visual, has augmented the Dulles network with 14 new routes during COVID. So even during COVID, we added a lot of new markets. You can see the start dates and some of the interesting, again, connecting that Northeast to the Southeast was really big. And of course, we're really excited about Accra, Ghana, starting in May. I have to tell you, of all the new markets in the United system, and that includes Newark to Johannesburg, I think there was San Francisco, Bangalore. We have Accra, Dulles Accra is actually really booking the best. We're really excited about that market. And Lagos, we're hoping, we're still getting some paperwork through with Lagos. It isn't up for sale yet, but that should be happening sometime this year. And then we're really excited. We just announced like Bozeman, Montana, and some seasonal markets that will really augment our full network out of Dulles. Next slide. And really, our Latin entity is leading the international network recovery, and this is across the whole United system. Latin America seems to be doing, we see these trends. In the beginning of the the pandemic, Israel was really, from our international perspective, Israel was very, very strong. Then now it's India and Latin America. So we're seeing different parts of the world open up quicker, but then shut down due to various reasons and then come back. Latin America has been pretty consistent. And as you can see, we're resuming Sao Paulo and Grand Cayman in June. And then we have all those other great Latin markets in the Caribbean and in Central America and Mexico. In the Atlantic, we are, we have been going to Frankfurt as of May last year, Brussels, London, Munich, and Zurich all started in July. And then of course, Accra, we're starting in May, and Lagos to be determined. And as Eddie mentioned, Paris starting in June. And so you can see on the bar chart below, the number of markets that we're serving are in deep blue. So we have 14 markets in Latin America, 7 in the Atlantic. Tentative resumption, we just have a couple in Latin and Atlantic. But we are still suspended, 2 in the Pacific. As you can imagine, this Pacific has really been shut down. And that would be Beijing and Tokyo. Next slide. The good news for Dulles is this. With the completion, we've retrofitted all of our 787-800s, the Dreamliners. And as of this summer, our Dulles hub will have 100% of our transatlantic flights will feature Premium Plus and Polaris. You've probably heard of Polaris, which is what was formerly our business class cabin that we branded. And Premium Plus is the seating section in purple. It's still considered economy, but is an upgraded economy with better recline, better meal service, bigger seats. So we're really excited about Premium Plus. It has been doing very, very well in our international markets, and Dulles will be a big beneficiary of that. So we're really bullish on this product, and Polaris. I do have to say, Washington Dulles will have a new Polaris lounge. That is a lounge dedicated to anybody sitting in the Polaris section of our flights. And we have it at a lot of our major international hubs already. Of course, all the clubs have been closed since COVID. Unfortunately, Dulles was finished last May, but had never was able to open. So we're eagerly anticipating the time when we can actually open the club. We hope maybe by the end of the year. I don't want to give you any timeline, but we'll see what happens. We were just monitoring the demand as closely as possible. And when it gets to a certain level, we will be having a grand opening of that Polaris lounge at Dulles. Next slide. And that's really our presentation. I have to say, I'm a brand new board member for Committee for Dulles, so I haven't had a chance to really get to know the team. And of course, everything's been probably virtual, but I'm really looking forward to really deep diving into the board. And I've attended many events over the past several years. I want to thank Scott for really being a great partner and of course, helping me throughout this whole presentation. And thank everybody in the Dulles community. I mean, United really is as successful as the business we earn from you. So thank you so much. And we're happy to take some questions now.
Thank you, Evan, Eddie, and Lauren. I appreciate your presentation. For those of you who wish to ask questions, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function, and I'd be happy to, or simply just raise your hand and unmute yourself.
Jack, let me just jump in and apologize for the hiccup on the presentation with Evan. Just my luck, the power went out, so it popped me off.
That's okay, Scott. I have to share with everybody, Scott and I did need 15 minutes prior to the call. And the one thing I didn't check was, can I advance the screen? And so, of course, that didn't work either. So.
And just a statement in my native language: encantado de ver que el mercado latino está liderando el camino hacia la recuperación, which means I'm delighted to see that the Latin market is leading the way to recovery at Dulles Airport and at United. So pleased to see the slate of airlines that are serving the South American market, and United and Dulles Airport play an important role, not just as a gateway to Loudoun County and Fairfax County, but our nation's capital and the region. And so a mutually synergistic relationship between United, the airport, the region, and it's the chicken and the egg. But without Dulles Airport, prosperity for all of those would have been severely impacted. So I would like to ask our dignitaries, elected officials, if they have any questions, and open the floor to them if they're still around. Mr. Potter, Chairman McKay, go ahead, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. I'd just like to thank the three presenters from United. We couldn't have given a better presentation. We're excited about the fact of their commitment to sustainability, and I think it was right in line with our efforts at the airport. Obviously, it'll take everyone at the airport to really achieve some sustainability goals over the course of time. So it's a strong partnership there, and I really want to thank United for the close partnership that we have. This is a recovery that'll require everybody's efforts, and we are committed to working with them to get them back up on their feet. And we're going to work with local officials to do the best we can. One of the focuses that we jointly have right now is to make sure that we get our workforces vaccinated so that the traveling public can be very, very comfortable with their interactions with the workforces, whether that's TSA, CBP, but obviously the airlines are critical there. So again, thank you for for the partnership that we have, and just want to make sure everyone knows we're very, very committed to doing everything that we possibly can to get air service back up and running and having the traveling public feel very, very comfortable as they transit through the airports, on the planes, and we're hoping for a very consistent, safe experience throughout. So Jack, thank you for the opportunity to make a comment. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jack. Scott, I'd like to turn it back to you. If you have any closing remarks. I know on the agenda you had me as providing the closing remarks, but I'd like to turn it over to you as our executive director. Thank you.
All right, if I may, I do have one question. I just was hoping that maybe others would chime in. I see it's getting a little bit easier on our end to be able to get on a plane with Dulles now having a testing center and et cetera. The real question for me is really what happens on the other end, particularly if you're doing foreign travel. And of course, Hawaii. How difficult is it to get back into the United States when you've traveled abroad? And do we know yet if there's going to be unification across the world in terms of requirements for either testing or having had a COVID vaccination?
I guess I can start, and we also have a colleague on, and Tom, I don't know if you're still on as well. Tom Michaels is in our state and government affairs team, but I do know that we're working with the Airlines for America and on a standard protocol for vaccine acceptance and testing acceptance, because we know that there are different layers of procedures and acceptance. So I don't know, Tom, did you want to address that?
Well, I'll tell you, our CEO has publicly said that he would mandate it if he could for the employees. There's a lot of reasons why that's not really going to happen. For one thing, the vaccines are still under an emergency use authorization and not a full-fledged approval, which would, I think certainly impede that. But what we're working with the counties right now and with our partners at MWA to establish a vaccine point of distribution at Dulles and one at Reagan National as well. And our hope is now that supplies seem to be becoming more readily available. I actually have my appointment scheduled for tomorrow. I'm very excited about that here in DC. But our hope is that we'll be able to make some progress there and open it up for all of the airport tenants. Total of what, 35,000 people reporting to work each day at the 2 airports, Jack. I mean, that's a large population of folks, and I think it would be really critical to make it as easy for people to get vaccinated as possible. I think that's the best we can do.
If I could just comment and add to what's been said, and thank you both for what you said. I think that there is going to be a challenge globally, because if you look at the pace of vaccinations across the globe, it's going to be much, much different. And so the risk element there is going to take some time to work itself out. I will tell you that the best prospect for United as well as MWA is to have domestic travel come back. And when you look at, and Evan, I think, referred to the fact that you look at where the recovery has occurred, there are places like San Francisco, Boston, that are trailing the rest of the country. And the reason they're trailing the rest of the country is because of what's going on locally in those places. We're at the bottom. And the reason that we're at the bottom is because there's inconsistency in terms of what's happening here in the metropolitan area. You have a different quarantine and restriction level in DC than you do in Virginia, than you do in Maryland. And people flying in here are confused by it. I spoke to another airline and I said, what do you think it's going to take for us to be able to get travel back? And they said, until you guys have restaurants that are open, nobody's going to come. Where are you going to eat? So the hotels are open, and eating is near and dear to my heart. So it really struck a chord with me. But it's really important that we start to think about that. And if I could just keep going, the big attraction, in this metropolitan area is the federal, is Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian. That's kind of the icon of why you come here. You do go to Virginia and Maryland, but literally the magnet is the nation's capital. It's the federal government and the interactions with the federal government. And as long as they're closed, Smithsonian's still closed. As long as they're closed, we have a problem. And, the distribution of vaccine, if you think about it in a kind of a macro level in this metropolitan area, here's the problem. It's being doled out across the nation based on population. And we're fortunate we're in Virginia, and they were considerate of our fire department, police department. The government provided for vaccines regardless of where people lived. If they worked at our airport and our fire department, no one asked you from West Virginia, from DC, but they were afforded access to vaccines. When you look at population in this metropolitan area, DC has a small population, 600,000+, but they have a huge proportion of jobs in the area. So they have many more jobs than they do residents. And so their ability to get vaccine is going to be problematic. And we just have to start thinking about this from a regional standpoint. And the more we think about it, the more I'm kind of convinced we have to find a vaccine solution for Washington, D.C., so that they can get the workers that are down there, a lot of them federal workers, get them vaccinated, get these facilities back open, up and running. And until that happens, unfortunately, I think we're going to be trailing the rest of the country. And thank God for United and for United's willingness. I think we give you a little incentive in terms of the economics coming through here. But the willingness to use Dulles as a transfer point. Without that, Dulles would be in the same boat as Reagan. So again, thank you to United. But Scott, I'm turning that question around a little bit, because the opportunity, I think the folks from United would tell you, is domestic first. And the way we posture, the governments in this area posture themselves on restrictions and quarantines is critical to getting that growth back.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm happy to say I'm getting my shot next week, and so hopefully the vaccines will become more readily available to. Question that came in: are there any plans for new or / replacement concourse for United at Dulles in the near future or future? This individual remembers hearing something about it pre-COVID.
I'll say not of which I'm aware.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that, if I could, saying that, if there are infrastructure dollars there in the form of a grant, we might be more aggressive pursuing it. But in the interim, the focus is on recovery and making sure that that's our top priority.
We have steadily been making consistent investments into the facility. There was a pretty steady plan pre-COVID, and obviously some of those things have been pushed out a little bit. But the plan is ultimately, to get to a place where both demand merits it and the finances are there to support it. But in the meantime, we're not sitting idle. As you saw with the Polaris Lounge and the baggage handling facility, there are investments being made to the physical plant there.
Excellent. All right. Well, we don't have any more questions at this time. Lauren, Eddie, Evan, I want to thank you for taking the time out to present to us today. It was very informative, and I look forward to reviewing. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there generally are requests for copies of the presentation. We asked pre-meeting if we could share those. They need to, or Evan needs to check with his team to make sure that we can post them and share them. And Evan, if we do, we will take the slide deck and turn it into a PDF so nobody can manipulate the slides in any way. Thank you, everyone. We certainly appreciate your attendance and support of this event this day. We are the Committee for Dulles. We are a great group. If you're not a member and wish to join, please feel free to contact me at Scott York at committeefordulles.org. We look forward to future events and hope that you will join us. You can learn about these events at committeefordulles.org on our events page. With that, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Thank you, United. It was great having you.
Thank you, United.